Well, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. And while we keep saying the summer is over, we're unofficially closing summer. We do that when our children go back to school, but it's not over. It's far from over. And you know what else is not over? COVID, folks. COVID is not over. Folks left the NABJ conference. They left the Democratic National Convention. They're leaving conferences. They're leaving airports. They're leaving summer travel, coming back with COVID. So I want to remind everybody, when you're out there at these festivals, conferences, galas, whatever you're attending, remember, don't be ashamed to wear your mask, wash your hands often. Any sign of any kind of cough or whatever you might have, just go check it out, because COVID is here, folks. And we certainly want you to be healthy and be mindful of the things that you can do to kind of keep yourself safe. So today we have an amazing lineup of guests and topics. I want to say quickly, though, speaking of the DNC, I hope you had a chance to see our broadcast last week. We were out there, our team, Chevy Lassiter, myself, Misha Green, our editor, a couple of other folks from the Washington Informer team. We were out there. It was an amazing event. Again, watching democracy in action. So if you have not had an opportunity to see the program from last week, which was essentially pre-recorded, it's still there on YouTube. So make sure you go and check it out. We want you to see sort of all the wonderful folks we had a chance to talk to and the coverage we did. Again, we have an amazing lineup. We have Kofi Epentang, who is president and CEO of Africa America Institute, an organization whose goal is to bridge Africa and its diaspora to catalyze a more sustainable and equitable world. It's a lot, but Kofi's going to fill us all in, especially as it relates to the Africa America Institute dinner that's coming up, their banquet in New York City, honoring African and diasporan visionaries in arts and culture. So we look forward to talking to him. And we're also going to talk to Denise Douglas, Director of Communications for the Office of Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. State's Attorney Braveboy, as you know, introduced or held her first multicultural festival to highlight the diverse cultures in the Prince George's County community. And it's an opportunity to offer residents a better understanding of the justice system as it operates in Prince George's County. So that they will be hosting their third annual multicultural festival tomorrow. Yes, it's tomorrow, and they're going to let us know what you can expect. And hopefully, you know, the weather won't run your way. I think we've got a little bit of sunshine tomorrow, so it'll be a good chance to get out there. And we're also excited to welcome LP O'Brien, closing out our National Black Business Month, where we recognize Black entrepreneurs and their contributions to America's economy. LP is the president and CEO of LP Drinks and the first winner of the widely acclaimed Netflix series, Ultimate Drink Masters. Our lifestyle reporter, Brenda Seiler, will be talking to LP and learning a little bit about, you know, some of the tricks of the trade that she does as a drink master. So before we jump into our first segment, I want to thank you for continuing to read the Washington Informer. I hope you picked up a copy of this week's issue. I always like to point it out to you all that we've got it on the newsstands now, and we've got some great stories in here, including an update on the situation with the Ward 8 council member, Trayon White. We've also talked about the improvement of school performance of students of schools in the DC public schools, and a great tribute to, of course, the Reverend Jesse Jackson and others who were at the DNC and who we got to remember, because, you know, this is how we trace our progress. And no matter how far behind we may think we as a people, Black people, are, when we look back and we see how far we've come, we can't deny it. And to see Reverend Jackson there, who ran for president, who was our state senator, shadow senator from the District of Columbia, who's led Rainbow Push and done so much to help improve the lot for African Americans It's good that we were able to get the story done by Hamil Harris. So I hope you'll check that out. And you can pick up the Washington Informer. We've got about 400 newsstands throughout the Washington area, the DMV, but also you can get the copy online at WashingtonInformer.com. We're going to show you that in a minute. If you go to WashingtonInformer.com, thank you, Jaman, you can pick up a copy of the paper, or not pick it up, you can just read the digital edition there online. And also, while you're there and hanging out, please consider subscribing to the digital edition. It's free. We don't have a paywall. We actually love for you to come and read our stories and share them with your friends and relations, and become a part of the Washington Informer family. And I also want you to know that when you pick up a copy of this week's issue, you also see this week's edition, this month's edition of, let me grab this for you, of The Bridge, which is our monthly edition, focusing on, again, creatives in the DMV. So this is a really exciting edition, because when we talk about sustainability, we've had a lot of conversations about that. But these are, there are articles here on young creatives who have created sort of a fashion statement with their own way of keeping young folks looking cool. And what's some words for me, Jabad? Looking cool and crisp. What?
Demure.
Demure. Okay, whatever that means. But anyway, it's a great issue, and it's amazing. We have so many creators in the DC area. So I'm glad that Bridge is always able to capture them and to talk about their stories, because otherwise you wouldn't hear about these folks, y'all. We're hearing all the negative stuff, but just some folks doing some dynamic things in the city. And I'm so glad that the Bridge was able to capture that. And who knows, we might have them to produce a show next week to really talk to some of those creatives and tell us some of the things that they're doing and how they're able to continue and actually be successful with their craft here in the DMV. So right now, I'm going to ask you to please take a moment to share this broadcast on your social media platforms. You can follow us on Facebook, IG, X, TikTok, Threads, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, YouTube, and in a newsstand on the corner. But make sure that you follow us in all those places, because wherever you are, we are. And so we hope that we producing the kind of content that you can share with folks and feel proud of what we're doing here in the nation's capital. I want to remind you, the Washington Informer is going to turn 60 years old in October. Woo, 60 years old. Folks have been giving me shout outs on LinkedIn, congratulating me for my 44th anniversary with the Washington Informer. I'm not that, well, I guess I am. But anyway, 44 years, but actually it's been longer. And as I told a couple of folks, I was the person who had to label the papers and fold the papers and create the addresses. So I was a child laborer 60 years ago, but here we are, and still publishing strong, and we'll be 60 on October the 16th. So we have some things coming up next year that we're definitely going to want to invite you to, and hope that you will help us to celebrate not only the past 60 years, but where we hope to be going in the next 60 years. So that's why we want to get you to, become a fan, follow us on all the social media channels, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. That's one word, Washington Informer TV, no spaces. You can watch old shows there, some of the shows from the past, and also, stay up to date on our weekly broadcasts. So there you'll find, as I said, lots of great conversations that you may be interested in, but unfortunately that you missed. But what is that thing? FOMO, fear of missing out. On our YouTube channel, you don't have to have fear of missing out. You can always go back and see what you missed. So before we begin our first segment, let's watch our weekly news broadcast by Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. The DMV landmark and home to the Washington Commanders, known as FedEx Field, is now Northwest Stadium, following the relinquishing of old naming rights and an early end to a 27-year sponsorship deal originally intended to last through 2026. The old name was officially removed from the stadium on August 5th, and the Northwest Federal Credit Union, the team's official credit union partner, will become the stadium's new sponsor on September 15th. The new 8-year sponsorship will add a new exterior logo to the stadium, as well as adding the credit union's patches to the team's uniforms. This is the first naming rights partnership for a credit union in NFL history. Maryland transportation leaders on Thursday approved a contract for rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge several months after the steel span collapsed under the impact of a massive container ship that lost power and crashed into one of its supporting columns. In the immediate aftermath of the deadly collapse, officials quickly promised to rebuild the bridge. They cited a 2028 completion date and estimated the project would cost nearly $1.7 billion and would include significantly more pier protection to better defend against future wayward ships. At a monthly meeting Thursday morning, the Maryland Transportation Authority Board awarded a $73 million contract for the first phase of the project to Keywood Infrastructures. Officials said the project will advance in 2 phases, with the first focusing on design work and other necessary steps before construction begins, which could include demolition of the remaining pieces of the bridge that are still standing. Phase 1 is expected to be completed within a year. The Attorney General announced Thursday that 4 title companies, Allied Title and Escrow, KVS Title, Modern Settlements, and Union Settlements, will pay a combined $3 million to settle allegations of illegal kickback schemes uncovered by the Office of the Attorney General. The investigation revealed that the companies offered real estate agents lucrative financial incentives in exchange for business referrals, distorting the district's title insurance market, and limiting homebuyers' options. The district plans to reallocate up to $1.75 million from the settlements toward restitution for affected consumers, and the OAG will provide additional details to homeowners in the coming months.
Thank you so very much, Curtis, for keeping us up to date on some of the other news that we're covering in the DMV. Now it's my pleasure to bring to our audience, Kofi Epenteng, President and CEO of the Africa America Institute. And Kofi, please forgive me if I am not pronouncing your last name correctly. You want to help me out there?
Sure. And thank you, Denise. It's wonderful to join you today.
Sure.
Name is Kofi Epenteng.
Epenteng. Thank you. Thank you. I names are important to me, and I want to make sure that, we get them correct. And it's a pleasure to have you with us and to learn about the Africa America Institute. This is not a new program. Some of organizations has been around for 71 years. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So, as you said, it's my privilege to serve as president of the Africa America Institute. And we were founded in 1953. And 2 of our principal co-founders were William Leo Hansberry, who created the first African Studies program in the U.S., and Horace Mann Bond, who was the first Black president of Lincoln University. And they decided to co-found AAI because they saw the world was changing. They saw that colonialization was on the wane, and that freedom was in the air. And given the historic ties between African Americans and people in the Caribbean and people on the African continent, just throughout the African diaspora, they saw their liberation as really tied to the liberation of people like them on the African continent. And they were wonderful mentors to people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was the first president of Nigeria. People like Kwame Nkrumah, who was mentored by Horace Mann Bond, who became the first president of Ghana. And they believed that a key ingredient in liberation was going to be liberatory education, and not just learning the history that was being taught at that time about how the world came to be, but integrating knowledge about Africa and its worldwide diaspora into the human story.
When you say liberatory education, define that for me.
So for me, liberatory education is education which has a purpose of helping one see clearly where one belongs in the world, that we're part of the human story, and that is liberating in that you're now part of that human story. So let me give you an example. So many of us who are older, like me, when we went to school, we read about ancient history, nothing about Africa. We read about medieval history, nothing about Africa. And then we heard about the transatlantic slave trade. Then we heard about colonialism. And then we heard about these newborn African nations. So a liberatory educational approach would be to point out that there are ancient civilizations that were existing during ancient times. And many of them were on the continent of Africa, that there were times when people used to go from other parts of the world to parts of Africa to learn. And there were Africans always engaged with the world. It wasn't this story where Africa was discovered and then people became enslaved. So that's an example of what I mean by liberatory education. It's kind of opening up your eyes to the possibilities of life.
And as one, you're originally from Ghana, but the education that you're speaking of, I think, is representative in the U.S. and around the world as well. I mean, even in our native countries, I'll put it that way, we don't always get the benefit of that liberatory education. So do you see it now more prevalent that students in African countries as well as in the US are beginning to see more of that or not?
I think there's been huge progress, lots to go, but I think technology has opened up a lot of possibilities that just weren't possible before. So it's now possible on a small smartphone in a remote place in rural, Kansas, to learn about something happening in Senegal, right? It's possible to hear music from all around the world, whereas before, if your record store didn't have it, it didn't exist, right? So I think that technology has opened up a lot of opportunity, but we still find it's necessary to try to work together to try to help teachers and schools provide the kind of education that our students are hungry for. So an example of that is we have been working for the last 4 years in Southeast Michigan, which is kind of the Detroit and its surrounding counties. And we're now working with schools serving about 40,000 students and their families, and integrating knowledge about Africa and knowledge about the African American experience into what they learn. They may do plays that help them learn some of these stories. They may learn to read using books that tell wonderful, rich stories, where the pictures and the words evoke a sense that they belong in these stories also.
Interesting. I mean, that is, I think that's the way you make things happen. And of course, I'm just going to add, now that folks are getting these DNA tests and really trying to discover their, particularly African Americans, their African roots, that's opening up the door from my observation of more people trying to learn more about, where they come from and the history of their native countries or their families prior to slavery, right? Like you said, prior to the transatlantic slave trade. But let me ask you now, AEI, like you said, has been around 71 years. How did you get involved with AEI?
I first became involved because the then president of the African American Institute, Maura McLean, who's now a historian and president emerita, was looking to add some African perspective to her board from someone who lived close enough to New York where I could be an active person. That was around 1999. And I served on the board from then. I'm still a member of the board, but I'm now the chief executive officer in addition.
Yeah. And, AAI, I'm going to say the name, I keep saying AAI, but the African American Institute, we just talking to folks have really sort of helped to develop, uh, inspire, encourage people who have come from the continent, come to the United States and gone back, and actually become leaders. Talk about how AAI grooms individuals to go back home and to become leaders in their own countries.
Okay. Well, Denise, I think grooms connotes the wrong thing.
Thank you, because I didn't like that word either. But yes.
So part of our work is this liberatory education, and
Yes.
it meant that over time, more than 23,000 Africans have received scholarships or fellowships from us. And as you know, talent is widely distributed, but opportunity is less so. So
Right.
some of those who are fortunate to get support from us for their educational journey and from many others, and went to wonderful schools that opened their minds to all kinds of possibilities, they then have a sense of purpose about their lives. And sometimes that means that they have, a healthy ambition to, try to make a change through government, through politics. But some of them, practice medicine. They open health clinics. Some of them promote art. Some of them are scientists. They're from all walks of life. But because there are so many of them, we found that some of them end up, running countries. The president of South Africa, the president of Namibia, the president of Cote d'Ivoire, all of them, we've had the privilege of touching their lives through our work, and they've gone on to be leaders and doing their part to try to improve the situation in their countries.
How do they learn about the African American Institute? How do they becoming involved? What kind of marketing or promotion is done actually on the continent?
Yeah, so we do very little marketing and promotion. So what we do is we raise money
Okay.
that and we work with donors. They could be government, they could be corporate, they could be philanthropic, and I would say philanthropic donors are probably the largest contributors over the last 15 years at AI. Prior to that, there was a lot of U.S. government programs that we felt were good programs. And what we do is based on the program terms, we then reach out to students. So we raised some money for STEM scholarships for high school teachers in East Africa, right? It was the East African Development Bank wanted to fund it. We contributed also. We then put together, we worked with alumni from East Africa. We identified teachers who were really dedicated and wanted to get additional skills and knowledge so they could be more effective as teachers. And the scholarships financed them coming to Rutgers University here in New Jersey. Those people have, some of them have gone from getting a master's to getting a PhD. Some of them are now back in the classroom. Some of them are teaching other teachers what they've learned. So that's just one example of how we go about it. Mhm.
Yeah, the total amount you said was what, 24? How many thousands have
About
participated?
23,000 scholarships and fellowships that we
Wow.
managed over our 71 years.
So, Kofi, does that work operate both ways? Are African Americans also eligible for programs to go to an African country for, you know, a learning opportunity and then come back? How does it work? Is it just,
Yeah, we have had
yeah.
programs where
Mhm.
we've had donors who wanted to fund that experience
Okay.
for students or kind of people who are early or mid-career to go and spend some time learning about business, about art um, um, in an African country, and then as a way of enriching their lives.
Hmm.
It has worked both ways. We will, so long as we feel that it's a good program, right, and it's funded in a sustainable manner, we're happy to manage both of those types of things, bringing students here, students there. We even sponsor African students to study in African countries,
Hmm.
which is a lot more efficient. The U.S. is a much more expensive market for higher education than Africa is. Um, 80 years ago, there were fewer African universities. Now there are a lot, and among those are some fantastic schools, uh,
Wow.
and who want to be more Pan African. Maybe they're um, in Ghana, and they've only been getting lots of Ghanaian students. And we have a donor who wants to support more African students, and they want it to be more efficient. So we can then bring students from 10 different African countries to this university in Ghana, and that university thrives in new ways with that. So
It sounds like an amazing opportunity for the participants and a great resource for funders, who really want to invest in the future of various countries and their people. And so this 40th anniversary, 40th annual awards gala that's coming up on September 24th. Tell us a little bit about that. And is this part of how you all raise your money or attract funders or celebrate funders? What's going to happen on the 24th?
yeah, the 24th, it's always a really fun evening. As you said, this is our 40th year doing it. And it began because during the UN General Assembly, which was when we always hold it, we found that there were a lot of important discussions going on, very little attention happening to good work, to real, to
Sorry
achieve,
about that.
yeah, uh, um, in Africa and in African diaspora communities. And so, well, it's an awards gala, and we try to shine a light on great work that's being done and we think should be celebrated and should be part of the conversation during that time. And we usually invite at least one head of state. Sometimes it's to focus on uh, transformative things that have happened in the country. This year is special because one of our alums is the late Age Gengab of Namibia, and he was a wonderful human being, loved by people all over the African continent and in the diaspora. And AI helps support him coming to the U.S. To get a couple of different degrees. And he then went back home and was part of the liberation struggle, etc. And he died earlier this year, and
Mm.
we're going to celebrate his life with the current president, who's also an alum of one of our programs, and the late president's widow. And we expect a number of other African leaders will want to come because he was so beloved. We will
Right.
also be celebrating the incredible work that the MasterCard Foundation has been doing. They are a huge foundation, and they have decided to focus most of their giving in Africa, and also to do a lot of things with First Nations people in Canada. And that kind of singular focus you don't tend to find, focusing on First Nations and on African peoples. And we want to kind of really celebrate the leadership they've shown. And we want to also curate some interesting conversations about what's happening in terms of how countries like Ghana and Liberia are harnessing the youth in new ways in terms of how they're changing and transforming economies.
Yeah, sounds like it'll be a fantastic conversation, because we know that Africa's a very young country, meaning most of its people are under the age of around their 18, 20. I'm not sure what the age group is, but you have a large youth population across the continent. And so how, they are being trained and engaged and involved in some of the things that they're struggling for. That's what I like it. They want to be a part of the growth and development of the country. So are you the one that's going to be doing the fireside chat with the president of Liberia and the president of Ghana?
No, we're going to have a real journalist do it.
Okay. All right.
Managed well. We are looking forward to having a wonderful celebratory evening with about 500 of our community members.
Wonderful. Now, quite honestly, I mean, I know at this point, one, can people still attend this event? And then for those who cannot attend the dinner, or at least will the conversation be live stream in any way? Is there opportunity for people to kind of still participate even if they're not in the room?
There's no way to do that live. However, within a week, we release a video of the entire program. Remember, it's a reception and a dinner, so we don't think anybody's going to be that interested in watching a bunch of people drinking and eating.
Exactly.
The actual awards program, and when we let people know what AAI has been up to in the last year, all of that is taped and will be available on our website and on YouTube. And we will have a sizzle reel probably within the first two days. And then each portion of the program will be, you can go to the piece of the program that you want to listen to, or you can listen to the whole thing.
Wonderful. Before we close, I just want to ask, because a lot of our viewers, I mean, we are about to start a segment called Win Africa, Washington Foreign newspaper Africa. So we call it Win Africa because we like the acronym WIN. We're happy to be, of course, a proud sponsor of your event. But, in getting more people engaged in interest in what's happening in Africa, but could you explain or maybe say why it's important for African Americans to be concerned or involved in, current day activities that promote Africa, and how can they also support the Africa America Institute?
Okay, well, thank you. So the way I think about it is that we all have a stake in learning our full story. So it's important for somebody in Senegal to understand what's happening in Harlem, New York. And it's important for someone in Harlem, New York to understand what's happening in Accra, Ghana, or in Johannesburg, South Africa, because we all got to be where we are in the world it was a whole global system that created this diaspora and created the conditions under which it lives. So I think the reason to learn is that it will liberate your mind, and it will, I think, put wind in your sails to learn just how much we all have in common and the many, many ways that we have influenced the creation of the modern world, and will have a big say in what the human family does going forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how can our viewers actually engage, support, learn more about the Africa America Institute?
I would encourage anybody to go to our website. It's aiafrica.org. And you will see all as much as you want. We have so much rich material that just gets added to every day on the website. So whatever it is your passion is, I think you'll find more that you can really dig into. And if you are available in New York and want to buy a ticket for the gala, they are on sale, and you can do that online too.
Wonderful. Kofi Epenteng. Did I say it correctly this time?
Epenteng, yeah.
Epenteng, thank you.
Yeah.
President and CEO of the Africa America Institute. I want to thank you so very much for taking some time to be with us today to tell us more about AAI, and you're always welcome to come back to share. We'd love to meet at some point some of your, they're not students, what would you call them? Participants in the program?
Yes. So they are, when they finish the program, we call them alumni. And
alumni, okay.
In the program, yeah, they are program participants.
Great, great. Looking forward to talking to them and learning so much more and getting involved in the work that you're doing. So wish you much success, and I know you'll have a successful event on September 24th.
Well, thank you, Denise, and congratulations on the wonderful work you're doing at the Washington Informer.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All righty. So I tell you, we're going to stay on the international road here, because now we're going to bring on Denise Douglas, who's going to talk to us about the Multicultural Festival taking place in Prince George's County. Denise is the communications director for Prince George's State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy. And also you are from, did you say Panama?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Talking about the African diaspora. Let's keep this ball rolling.
Let's go into the Caribbean. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate you on 60 years of having the newspaper, and you're such an icon in the journalism community. So it is a great pleasure for me to be here chatting with you on behalf of our amazing State's Attorney, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, we're having this the Multicultural Justice Festival tomorrow, and we are just excited about it. Like you said, I'm from Panama. Both of my parents are Panamanian. I was born there and came here when I was 7, so I'm deeply rooted in the culture. But of course, I am still an American, so I enjoy, just partaking in both cultures and being able to have an event that we're having tomorrow that celebrates my culture. The State's Attorney, as you probably know, her dad is from Grenada. And so she is very proud of being part of that culture. And then guess what? She did her DNA ancestry, and she found out that she's also got some Nigerian mixed in there. So this event tomorrow is very special for us and very special for so many people in this area. We're excited to talk about it.
Well, the DMV is a multicultural area, and when you talk about, Prince George's County, I know you have a lot of Nigerian residents there. I'm not sure who else dominates from other countries. Maybe you can share that with us. but just to have this, and you call it a multicultural justice festival.
Yes.
So that's an interesting sort of twist, because when we think about multicultural festivals, we're always thinking music and food, but justice doesn't always play a part. So tell me, one, about how multicultural Prince George's County is, if you can do that. But then
Yes.
secondly, the influence of the justice part of the festival.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've got folks who are going to be there from the Caribbean, from Latin America, from the Middle East. As you know, Prince George's County, we've got a little bit of everyone, and we're really proud of that. So we'll have folks from those different areas of the world coming, as well as people who are going to be performing. You mentioned food and so forth. So we'll have food, we'll have vendors, and so people will be able to have fun. So that's the festival side of it, Denise. Just coming out,
Okay.
having fun, letting your hair down, that sort of stuff. But then the state's attorney also wants to make sure people understand the justice process. A lot of people who might be multicultural may not understand that we're here for them. We're here to help them out. They may want to shy away when they think of police, law enforcement, that sort of thing. But the justice process is here for everybody. And so we'll have information, we'll have table vendors, state's attorney clearly will be there if you have any questions about it. And so that's where the justice element comes in. We want to have fun, but we also want people to be informed and know that if they're a victim, or unfortunately, if they end up on the other side of the justice system, how it works, what they should expect, what their rights are, and so forth. So mixing some fun with some information, we figure we'll get lots of folks out.
Yeah, that sounds. So where is this going to take place?
Fairwood Park in Bowie. There you
Okay.
see the information up there on your screen. And from 12
Okay.
to 6, 12 to 6 tomorrow, completely free family fun event. The state attorney says bring your lawn chairs, bring your good energy, come ready to eat and have a good time and learn a little bit, of course.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned, law enforcement, I guess the courts or what have you, are they going to be there to provide resources? Or if you said people have questions, who else will they be able to talk to in a safe space?
Yeah, and that's a great question because safe space, as you know, is important, and not everybody is ready to share all their information. But yes, we have a number of resource tables from our different partners, Prince George's County Police Department, and different places that will definitely be there to provide information. We have a table. We have employment agencies that always come to our events as well. And so there will just be a wide variety of information. And, we just love talking with people, getting to know our community. You may know that we're always out there, just even if it's not for this event, for so many other events. And so part of what we do is getting to know who our neighbors are and what their concerns are and so forth. So this is an exciting event for us.
Will there be, because, I mean, the nation has a very important election coming up, but so does the county. So especially, so will there be voter registration information as well? Are you all looking to do that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's definitely a part of what the state's attorney does in terms of encouraging people to be part of the electoral process. She has launched different initiatives for past elections, and for this one, of course, we will be doing that and making sure that people are connected and know what the next step is and what they should do in order to vote.
So we should have fairly good weather tomorrow. I mean, this drizzly rain stuff keeps around us, but I think we're going to have a little sunshine tomorrow. But will it happen regardless? Right now, it's a go.
It's a go, and we've
Okay.
been definitely keeping an eye on the weather, and it looks like it's going to reverse, turn in
Yes.
the other direction, and give us some sun. But to answer your question directly, yes, we expect to go either way.
Okay, and I know that the state's attorney has, I mean, she's very creative, comes up with a lot of different initiatives. I know the Domestic Violence Month is coming up in October. You've got the Our Streets, Our Future crime prevention initiatives. Anything you want to share with us about anything else you all are doing right now that folks need to know about?
Absolutely. Just to touch on the Our Streets, Our Future crime initiative, it's an initiative the state's attorney started in 2021, similar to what we're doing with the Multicultural Justice Festival, going into the community, letting people know that we're there, partnering with different agencies to provide resources to individuals. Because the idea with the Our Streets, Our Future is that if you give people what they need to have a good life, to survive, to be able to make a good living, we can see our crime numbers drop. And we have seen our crime numbers drop throughout this year. Overall crime is down 11%. And so that was the idea behind starting the Our Streets, Our Future initiative that State's Attorney Brayboy started in 2021. And so we're really proud of that. And we've had 3 Our Streets, Our Future events this year, and we continue that, especially throughout the summer months. And just one last thing, Denise, you mentioned domestic violence. Absolutely. We've got an initiative going with that. Basically, the trend that we are seeing is intimate partner violence is generally where people focus on. But what the state's attorney is working on right now is familial cases. In other words, working, we've seen, yes, exactly. We've seen murders having to do with familial relationships spike up. And so this initiative that we'll be launching here shortly focuses on making sure people, mother, son, siblings, that sort of relationship, that they know that there are important resources out there. Situations don't have to really escalate to where you're acting out violently, impacting somebody else in your family. So again, just in terms of intimate partner, we're always focusing on that. But this time around with this initiative, we're going to be focusing on family relationships and making sure people know that there are resources and help out there for them.
Well, that's fantastic. And I'm sure that folks that show up on tomorrow will learn a little bit more. Sounds like it's going to be a great event. I'm going to try to make my way out there as well, just to, get a little bit of, some multicultural culture,
Yeah.
And I really thank you for bringing that to our attention and sharing that with us today. So look forward to talking to you. And you're my namesake, so love that.
Yes. Thank you. And hey, you have to invite, I was listening in, Mr. Kofi, who was on before me. We hope to see him out. We hope to see you out. Come on out.
All right. Denise, thanks a lot. And tell the state's attorney we said thank you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
All righty. Have a good
Bye-bye.
one. Bye-bye. So now we're going to turn. So we got an event tomorrow. We've got one coming up in September. But, just to kind of get into the holiday vibe here, I'm so excited to have our lifestyle reporter, Brenda Seiler, here to talk to someone who's going to really kind of help to get the spirit going. Brenda, I'm going to let you take it over so we can meet LP O'Brien.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. You've given us a lot of good content in terms of how we can expand our knowledge of different cultures. So that was wonderful, both of your previous guests. But we are about to talk to someone very special, an award-winning mixologist and bartender, LP O'Brien, who is right here in the DC area. Welcome to Let's Talk, LP. I'm so happy to see you again because we have met before and it's great to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
Now, LP, who was the winner in the inaugural season of Netflix, Ultimate Drink Master, is in her own right a CEO and founder of LP Drinks. First of all, let's talk about briefly about being the winner, the top bartender on Ultimate Drink Master. How were you even selected for that? And what did you have to do in order to get that top prize?
Yeah, for sure. So, the competition is set up in a way where there are 10 episodes, 10 challenges, and essentially we're given a prompt. And, there's so much versatility with all the talent on the show. And the goal really is to ensure that you're being as authentic as you can be to yourself, right? Accomplishing the prompt at hand. And then additionally, that cocktail better taste good and look good as well. And so, ultimately, at the end of the competition, it is an eliminatory style competition. At the end of the competition, I ended up winning, and I'm super grateful for the experience.
That's wonderful. And one thing that I realized when I went to Marriott had a competition last year, and that's where I met you. It is okay to put some different things. It's not your run-of-the-mill cocktails that you all are making.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so
We're
that
definitely,
it
yeah.
allows you to be creative.
For sure. Yeah, we're definitely taking more of a culinary approach to this cocktail journey. But the thing that was so pivotal and important about this series was it was really the first time that you got to see what we do on the day to day and the back end, as if any other chef show really showcases. So I was really grateful that that was the focus.
So I want to talk about your business. LP Drinks. Tell me what you are doing as an entrepreneur. And by the way, audience, this is Black Entrepreneur Month. So we are really happy to have LP with us today. Talk about your business.
For sure. So LP Drinks is a beverage agency. And what I do is I essentially bring cocktail experiences to life with brands and bars. And so they hire me for a couple of different things. It may be to help curate a menu for their opening bar. It might be for a personalized event that they'd like to have for their guest. And sometimes it's even bringing me in to curate experiences of my own. So there's a lot of versatility. I've worked with clients like Disney and American Express. I did the cocktails at the Emmys in 2023. So there have been some really fun opportunities as a result. And honestly, I'm just happy to be able to get people with the stories associated with cocktails and spirits.
So you're working with event planners and caterers in order to bring that special flavor, pun intended,
Yeah.
to various types of settings that you are engaged in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes it's bartenders and bar owners and brands and businesses, but it's definitely fun. I'm enjoying myself, and the versatility and the variance is a gift. It never is the same thing.
Well, you are also a part owner of Sipany Spritz Company. Is that correct in terms of, is that the way you
Yes,
pronounce it? Sipany? Yes. You are
yes.
a part owner, co-founder of that particular company. Talk about your company.
Yeah, so I'm one of the owners of Symphony Spritz Co. It was founded by Amanda, Victoria, and Joseph Mintz, who are two dear friends of mine. And the idea behind this cocktail is that it's inspired by New York ingredients, real ingredients. The OG kind of canned cocktail we had was New York rye whiskey, New York honey, lemon juice, carbonation, sparkling water, and a little bit of saline. We just came out with our NA line of canned cocktails inspired by classic cocktails. And the idea is that you can enjoy them as is or, place a spirit in them if you'd like. But, we feel that as consumers, we want you to make a smart investment. So that's why we really lead this company with two things in mind: real ingredients, deliciousness, but additionally that philanthropic incorporation. We're really, really into supporting organizations, specifically nonprofits that support the environment. So I'm really blessed to be a part of the organization and the company.
And when you use the term NA, that means non-alcoholic. And also people refer to them as mocktails that you are in the business of now, which is great.
Yeah, so I like to create just a little differentiation. Mocktails are drinks that I think are for, they're whimsical, they're for children, they're the lemonades and the Shirley Temples, but we're talking about sophisticated adult drinks here. We're talking about drinks that have complexity, that have the ability to to satisfy that tingling taste that we all, kind of crave when we're not necessarily in the mood to drink.
I appreciate you explaining that, because a lot of people will use the term interchangeably, like I did just a few moments ago. But I think that is wonderful in terms of it's an elevated way to enjoy a beverage, I would say. And
Absolutely.
talk about one of the things that we were talking about in the pre-show was that one of your first career paths, you were a nurse. And
Yes,
then how
yes.
did you transition from being a nurse to being a mixologist? Talk about that fork in the road in terms of your career.
Yeah, so one of my best friends in college, who is still a very dear friend of mine, was a server at this bar in DC. And I used to frequent it. And I grew up in a house full of 8 children. So I was very accustomed to noisy environments. So I would go there, sit in the back, wait for her to get off her shift, eat my chicken sandwich and my Coca-Cola, and just do my schoolwork. And, you know, it's pretty interesting to be in a space where you're not really ordering anything all night besides a chicken sandwich and Coke, but they took such great care of me. They were very hospitable. And I started paying attention to what they were doing in the space behind the bar. And I loved the way they
Yeah.
told stories of spirits and cocktails, the way they were able to curate personalized experiences, but most importantly, the theatrics associated with the way that they made drinks. And I went up to the owner one day. I was like, I want to do that. Can I have a job? And at that time, wasn't sure career wise, had no interest on that being my career, but over time, just took more interest in it and eventually made that switch. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done, but it's definitely the most rewarding thing.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. I know my cousin was a bartender for a while, a couple of years after he graduated from college. So I know how, sometimes you're thinking this is just a gig I can take until I get on the path that I really want to take.
Yeah.
But for you, it turned into a whole new career direction. And one of the things we learned about you right before we came on the air was that you have recently celebrated a little more than 1 year of being sober. Talk
Yes.
about that experience and what made you feel like you needed to take that on.
It's interesting because most people are like, well, how are you making drinks if you don't drink? How is that possible? So I actually am a mom to a beautiful little girl who's 8 months. And, I stopped drinking obviously when I got pregnant, but after having her, just made the decision to continue to not drink. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. There's so much clarity in my work, my ability to be way more present and honestly, I like feeling good, and I do. I feel great. But the thing about it is, I don't need to drink in order to do my job well, which is one of the best things. I am able to approach tasting my cocktails in the same manner a professional sommelier or anyone tasting spirits would, which is swirling it in my mouth and then it's spelling it just to really extract flavor profiles and aromatics. And so when I'm making cocktails for guests or clients, I do the same thing. I build my drink, I can swirl it in my mouth and taste it, and then assess and make changes as necessary. And I think it's one of the coolest things about this job that you don't need to imbibe in order to be successful.
Well, that's a wonderful way of explaining it, because I'm sure our listeners were trying to figure out, well, how does that happen? And I just want to remind our listeners that we are talking to LP O'Brien. She's a mixologist and entrepreneur here in the Washington, D.C. area. Are you a native Washingtonian from the area?
No, I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in New York.
Okay, that's fine. We are a melting pot, as Denise said with her other guests, that we accept all folks, especially now that it's voting season. So we want people to exercise their right to vote. And the other thing that I wanted to ask finally was, how do people get in touch with you? I know you're on social media, but if people want to engage you and they want to be a client of yours with your
Yes.
business that you have in terms of helping people make the best and the most out of an event, they are trying to plan. How do they get in touch with LP?
Yeah, so please reach out on my website, lpdrinks.org. My Instagram is lpdrinksdc as well. But I have an inquiry form you can fill out on my website, and I'm available to help with any special events that you have. And we're definitely going to make it a memorable one for you all.
And you have a beautifully designed website. I was on it a couple of days ago. So, folks, you've heard it. You heard it directly from LP O'Brien. She is an entrepreneur. This is Black Entrepreneur Month, and we need to celebrate and be supportive of all the Black-owned businesses that are in the area and in other places around the country. And thank you, LP, for being with us. And who knows, we may run into you somewhere at an event. Oh, and your sparkling, the spritzes, where can people buy those?
Yeah, so if you go to Instagram, Sippany Spritz Co., or you can follow us at sippany.com, and you can buy our cans directly on our website.
These are the non-alcoholic Sippany, SIP, Oni spritz, and they come in 4 flavors right now. So thank you for sharing that with us as well, and let's support LP. Thank you, everybody. And now we're going to go back to Denise.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Brenda. I don't know if you've been, I wanted to ask LP this as well, though. I don't know if you've been places to somebody's house and they've created these cocktails, which, the next morning you're saying, what did they put in that? So, I don't know if there's some like tricks of the trade, some things that you should avoid, concoctions that you should not mix together, because everybody is not a mixologist. It's like everybody ain't a cook, right?
Yeah, when I went to this Marriott event, they were making cocktails that they infused with olive oil and cactus, essence. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. Right. That sounds interesting. But I'm so glad that we were able to have LP with us today.
Likewise. And looking forward to having an event where we can actually sort of share her with our community. So who knows, 60th anniversary is coming up. There might be something we can put together and let folks come and see, meet her and enjoy her, I don't want to call them concoctions, but what do we call them? Her drinks.
Her drinks.
Yes,
her libations.
Yes. Her libations. All right. Brenda, thank you so very much. Always enjoy it.
Sure.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Happy to be here today.
All righty. And I want to thank those of you who are watching Let's Talk. I want to thank you for being with us, for watching the program. I want you to have a wonderful weekend. It is a holiday weekend. We're talking about Labor Day, which is on Monday. And so we want to celebrate our workers. I want to offer a special thanks to our guest, Kofi Epenteng, Communications Director for Attorney Aisha Brave Boy Denise Douglas, and LP O'Brien, and of course, Brenda Seiler for conducting the interview and always being supportive, Chevy Lassiter, and of course, Jaman Jackson, who's with us as well, who operates in the background and makes sure things happen. So be sure to turn in next week when a representative from Pepco will be back to share tips on how we can save money and energy during the sweltering summer. But, summer, well, we said it's not over. We still have some hot days, but it looks like we're going to have some cool days coming forward. But we don't know with this global warming what's coming up. So it's always great to have Pepco on board, because those electric bills are the ones that we really are worried about, especially when it gets cold. So anyway, looking forward to having them. So until next week, I'm Denise Rollard Barnes signing off. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next Friday.